E360 TV proudly presents Messages of Inspirational Stories TV show. Live streaming now to millions of devices around the world on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook live streaming. Our shows are available video on demand on these channels. And we broadcast daily, Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on these channels. On Mondays, Expanding Your Business. Tuesdays, Natural Health and Wellness. On Wednesdays, we cover Mentoring Our Youth. And on Thursdays, our new show, Ideas Worth Knowing. And on Fridays, Women in Leadership. To be able to watch our television show on your favorite device, please go to e360tv.com and download the app for your favorite device. Brought to you by our producers and hosts, Jimgrant and donnaguinouard. Along with our host, Beata Severin-Reed and Emersonbrantley. Supported by our admin team of Michaela Vidal and Gaia Guinois Balconi Leda. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. The Messages of Inspirational Stories is proudly brought to you today by the good guys at the 6minutewebinar.com. As you can see, Emerson, I'm all dressed for the occasion today. And you know why I'm sitting here in a t-shirt?
Because it fits you to
I normally wear a collar, but today, let me just say this.
Oh, we lost you there, Jim. I think the t-shirt got the best of you there for a second. But I know today we're going to be talking about some of the things that small businesses have to deal with. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I got some real good things going on here today. First of all, our air conditioning is out. And the AC guy, he'll be over at about around 5 o'clock this evening, so that'll be good. And so that's why I'm in a t-shirt today. And then my internet started to act up. I don't know what's going on there. So other than that, it's Monday. What can you say?
You know, the founder, the person who's probably the founder of modern air conditioning was Dr. John Gorey, who is from the state of Florida. And one of the two statues, every state has two statues in the Rotunda of the Capitol in D.C. One of the statues from Florida is that of Dr. John Gorey. And he believed that malaria at the time, this is in the 1800s, was caused by the miasma over the swamp, the lowland areas, the waterbogged areas. But he discovered that if he could put ice into a container and cool a room down, that he could actually reduce the fever and save more malaria victims. And ice at that time was very expensive. They cut it off of lakes and they shipped it down to the southeast United States, packed in sawdust. And it was very expensive to do this, but he basically, through this process, developed the concept that when you're able to cool a room down, you can actually reduce fever and you could reduce the effects of the malaria. So I feel for you. I grew up as you probably did. I'm guessing that I grew up without air conditioning.
Oh yeah.
And I can still adapt to it, although I like air conditioning.
Oh yeah.
I like it a lot. But yeah, I feel for you, my friend. And
that's okay.
Wearing a t-shirt in that kind of a situation is completely understandable.
Yeah, I tell you, it's one of the wonderful things when you were talking about how the doctor took ice and all that. It reminded me when I lived in Arizona. We lived in the Bisbee area, Mile High, and of course over around Benson was about
But did you have
4,400.
a swamp cooler on top of your house?
Yes, and those
Yes,
things
okay,
work.
yeah.
Those things work beautiful because the reason why swamp coolers work so
Yes.
good because the humidity was low.
Yes.
That's why you need air conditioning, is to offset the humidity in a house.
Yep.
But Emerson, I still love those old swamp coolers.
Oh yeah.
For you folks,
for those of you who are not from an area that is as arid or as dry, and of course I live in an area that has high humidity all of the time.
Mhm.
But when you're in an area that is not that humid and very dry, they would take moss and different materials and pack it into this chimney looking thing on the roofs of the houses, and the draft of the air through that would cool down the house.
oh,
Right, Jim?
oh yeah, absolutely. Because
Yeah, and it does an amazing job.
the standard cooler in those days back in the 70s, they just had this special pads that you used.
Right.
And every year I would go up there and I'd put in fresh pads. I'd clean out the tank and all that. And it ran off 110 voltage, not 220, but 110. Very, very economical. You had two things that ran up there. You had the water pump that would pump up the water. It was a little submersible pump. When I say submersible, it would set down into the water about 3 or 4 inches, and about 3 inches really. And it would pump the water up through a pipe, and it would go out on 8 legs, and it would just drip down through those pads. And of course, it had a big turbine in there, fan. But what really made it interesting, and what I really like, and what I miss, is that all you had to do was crack the windows about a half an inch on each end of the house so the air could just flow through. And that cool air would come through there, ladies and gentlemen. And I love that whistling noise it made. Oh, it sounded so good. And the best way that I know of to test whether or not, a swamp cooler, as they were called, would work in your area is, if you just wet the back of your hand and blow on it. If it's hot, it's too humid. If it's cool, it'll work. And I tell you, those swamp coolers back then, my goodness gracious. I mean, heck, I never had an air conditioning guy at my house. I was the air conditioning guy.
Yeah, I grew up with no AC.
Yeah, but in North Carolina, we didn't have AC.
Yeah.
We had
and it's hard for people to understand or to realize that just a few years ago, air conditioning was something that was very, very unique, very special. Mm-hmm. It was when you went into public buildings, you might have had it, but it was very expensive to try to have it in just your average home. Mm-hmm. And what's really interesting in that, Jim, is living here in Florida, is waterfront property. Waterfront property especially was considered the lowest level property that you could get because it was the most humid, most sticky and uncomfortable and everything else until the advent of air conditioning.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it completely changed the whole culture.
And I remember when Dad sold the farm in 1962, he built a home, and it had an attic fan.
Oh, yes.
And I'm going to get Emerson going on. We're actually going to be talking about expanding your business here in just a few minutes. But anyway,
that's what I understood this was going to be about. But
but we got to give you some good hot tips here, and we're doing this now. But
no pun intended. No pun intended.
But we turn on that attic fan, and you'd crack the windows at night, and that cool air would just suck in. Oh man, and it was so refreshing. It really was.
And the attic fan didn't blow into the house. The attic fan pulled out of the house.
That's correct.
The heat rises, and so your attic fan was pulling the hot, humid air out of the house.
Yeah.
And pulling in the fresh air from outside.
Yeah, I think one of these days I might put in an attic fan as a backup system just in case.
Might not be a bad idea, you know.
You know, especially when it's not warm enough to have or humid enough to have the AC. Cut on the attic fan and just let the four winds blow, brother. My goodness gracious. Today, though, we're going to be talking about expanding your business. And, you know, Emerson, we talked earlier today, and this is what generated this conversation for the show. We talked about how companies and businesses, they always try to attract customers or clients based on a discounted sales price when they have not done one critical step. And that is build value in what they are offering. Because
it's kind of the monkey see, monkey do, Jim.
Yeah, it is.
You know, they look around and they see what other businesses are doing that are in their space, and they kind of mimic it. And they don't really think about stepping outside of that so that they are totally different than all of those other businesses.
Oh, yeah. You're absolutely correct on that. And because I get in ads from this one company, I'm not going to name them, but they're always offering some gimmick of 30% off, and then the 40% off for Father's Day, you know, and stuff like that. Well, I really don't know much about what their product is. I mean, I'm familiar with the product, but I don't know if their product is would fit my needs or make me happy, to make me see, without the value. The value's got to be established. Otherwise, I'm not going to pull out my credit card and buy their product.
Well, Jim, if you remember the class that we met in, that I was doing in St. Pete, Tampa, St. Pete area, Florida.
Yeah, Largo,
Florida.
There we go.
You came to. One of the things that I shared in the training that I was doing, and this is good for any of you who have a small business,
yes,
is to just step back for a second and recognize there is only one business in your market, in your
special niche.
Yeah, your niche. There's only one business that is going to be the biggest business. There's only one business that's going to be the oldest business. And there's only one business that's going to be the cheapest business. You cannot be the oldest. You don't need to be the biggest. And you definitely do not want to be the cheapest.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to be the cheapest. Because being the cheapest means all you're doing is selling based on the price.
Yes.
But here was the kick. If you remember this, Jim, you can be the best because there are an unlimited number of bests. Because the best has to do with your particular customers or clients or patients and their perception of you for them.
Yes.
So you can be the best. You can't be the biggest. You can't be the oldest. And you don't want to be the cheapest, but you can be the best because there's an unlimited number of bests.
Oh, yeah. That's so true because, you know, just like you see there on our marquee there, the 6-minute webinar, the 6-minute webinar is all about getting people to know you, like you, and trust you. That's when they connect with what's the best part of you, if I could put it like that. That's the building, that's the foundation, the cornerstone of your business. Because if you're trying to just, you know, outsell the other guy or gal by just offering the cheapest price, all you're going to do is turn dollars until you run out of money.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're out of business. That's the proven formula.
And I shared this with Jim. A few years ago, some of you will remember, there was a huge economic upturn around 2008 or so. And for whatever reason, I didn't even then often go to malls, but I went to a mall right after the holiday season, because quite often after the holidays, you can get some really good deals, right? We all know that.
Yeah.
And I walked into this mall, And Jim, I started having trouble breathing. I was choking. I was almost, I had to sit down because at least a third of the stores had 50, 60, 70% off sales and had paper, or maybe they already had paper over the windows because they had gone out of business. They did their holiday sales, they went out of business. And it just broke me to the point that people came by and said, "Are you okay, sir? Do you need some help?" I was just overwhelmed because so many of these businesses, you have life blood in them. You have in their retirement income, their savings, and even if for the people who are working for a larger company, maybe they have spent years and dedicated hundreds, maybe thousands of hours of their life into these businesses, and these businesses were just discounting themselves out of business because you have to be able to generate revenue to be able to continue to have a business. Those of you who have a business know what I'm talking about. You have to be able to meet a margin there, and not just meet the margin. You've got to be able to have the money in the bank to be able to pay ahead to order the inventory to keep that margin. And the first rule in finance is if your outgo exceeds your income, then your upkeep is your downfall.
There you go.
And these businesses were just literally, forgive me for saying this, folks, cutting their own throats over trying to discount themselves out of a financial issue. You can't do that.
They were selling themselves out of business is what they were doing.
Selling themselves out of business. And it's happened again and again and again. And when I see it, it just breaks my heart. Because when you do what Jim was talking about, when you make yourself that exceptional business for a small group of people, you become their only one.
There you go.
And it doesn't matter if somebody's a little bit cheaper here.
Or some other competitor is much bigger than you.
Are bigger.
Yeah.
Or advertises more than you.
Yeah.
The thing is, they're going to continue to do business with you because they trust you. And they believe you. And they listen to you. And they know that you got their back if there's a problem. And when there is a screw up, and we all screw up, Jim, right?
Oh, yeah.
I
do it every day, whether I need it or not.
Well, when you screw up, they're quick to forgive. They're not the ones who are going around saying, well, you should have done it right the first time. You know?
Right.
Yeah, they fixed the problem, but. And what happens is you have people who send you endless referrals and buy from you again and again and again. And it doesn't matter if it's an online business, Jim, or if it's a brick and mortar business. It just doesn't matter.
The principles are the same.
And that's how we're wired.
Yeah, the principles are the same. And that leads us right into the show that Mikelewis and Mr. Emerson Brantley, they head on Thursdays. Ideas Worth Knowing. And Mike, he understood what our TV show was about. And Emerson, we've said this before, but this is for some of the folks out there that need to hear it twice or three times, or maybe the people who are tuning in for the first time. This ideasworthknowing.com was a brainchild of Mike. And I think, Emerson, you had some input into that. But Mike let me just hush and let the subject matter expert, Mr. Emerson Brantley, share how that came about and what's in it for you to see those 10 complimentary books that you can get by having your very own library card at no cost. Go ahead, sir.
Well, Mike has been a publisher for many years, and he really has dialed in on taking your book, anybody's book, your book, my book, whoever, taking a book and making it into a bestseller.
Oh, yeah.
And he has, I don't remember, Jim,
It's over 1,000.
Yeah, over 1,000 probably best-selling authors out there. And as the publisher, most people don't know this, Jim, but publishers have the ability to take and have a publisher's group of people who are reading books in advance of publication. Well, what Mike was, the genius in this is what Mike did was he said, for all of these people that he had been the publisher for, he went to them and said, you know what? I think I can expose what you have put down into writing to far more people and to expand the number of people who understand the things that you understand. And I have to say this, Jim, almost all of these books are business oriented. They're oriented towards small businesses. And they're oriented towards people, whether you're a solopreneur that sells stuff online or you have a brick and mortar business or whatever, or a manufacturing business like you did, Jim.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, the thing is, there are certain business principles in there, and there are people. Okay, in my case, I've done well over 10,000 marketing campaigns. Over 10,000. Do you think maybe, just maybe, I have experienced some of the things you experience in your marketing needs? So with a book like mine, and I have a book that he has listed there called Sold. With a book like mine, you can take and draw out of that knowledge and apply it to your own business. And that's powerful.
Yes,
that's
it
powerful.
is.
Just to go and buy books on Amazon, even the like Kindle books and things like that, you're talking $10 or $20 a book, and many of these books retail in the $20 or $30 or $35 range. So to be able to have your choice of books and go in there and find the things that you're looking for that you need, that's powerful.
Yes, it is.
Ideas Worth Knowing is a tremendous resource for you. Just a tremendous resource.
It really, truly is. And the thing about it too, that I saw when you shared with me what you and Mike were going to do, and this was Mike's baby, you might say. I saw the instant value, because every time you invest in others, you've invested in yourself.
Yes.
And every one of those authors who participated in that, and I had the privilege of being one of those authors, I should say. And thanks to Mr. I ain't gonna mention his name, but his initials are WEB, Waldo Emerson-Brantley III, one each. But my point being is that by doing that, and you invest in others, you've really invested in yourself. And think of how many lives you're going to touch and the blessings there. And that is really important. And Emerson's pathway of life has really led him down to be very successful in business. You can go to Emerson's website there at web3direct.com. You see on the marketing key there, and you can see some of the things that he has done. He put on an event with the VFW, American Forest, and he brought in Walmart. And when Emerson explained to Walmart what he was doing, he didn't have to go into a question and answer session. No. They got it first time. And on that particular weekend, over 3,000 media outlets picked that story up and broadcast it out. And you guys had a technical problem there, didn't you?
Yeah. When the national TV news picked up the whole story, it crashed the servers. It was I've had servers crash on more than one of my campaigns too, Jim. But this was it crashed the servers, and we had people. Our phone lines were jammed. The phone system basically collapsed. It just was a mess. It was a mess, but it was a mess.
It was a nice mess to have.
This often happens. If you've never experienced that kind of response in your marketing, it's easy to discount it. Or as one of my clients used to say, Hey, you bring in the bear, we'll skin it. It's a terrible analogy, but basically it was, you get the business, we'll handle the business. Well, they couldn't handle the business. And when your phone systems crash or your website crashes, you can't handle it. So always know the best that you know is only the best that you know.
There you go. There
is always, no matter how big the box is that we think we're in, there's a bigger box.
Amen.
And as I say to people sometimes, and you can't get outside of all the boxes. There's only one person who's done that. Okay. And that job isn't available.
There you go. Okay. I love also when the lady asked, what happened, and why the system crashed. Well, it was Emerson-Brantley. Who? Emerson-Brantley. She says,
yeah.
I don't. And what she said was her response. You heard your name. I don't like him.
Yeah. There's a YouTube video on that where she said, I don't like him.
Yeah,
because literally you can have business that is so overwhelming. And I don't recommend this to people.
No.
To understand that you can have business that is so overwhelming that you can actually crash your servers and your phone systems, and you can have employees that walk out the door because they say, hey, I'm done with this. And the answer to that, Jim, is to anticipate it and to be prepared for it, and to understand that is something that really does happen.
Oh yeah, it sure does. Yeah. And Emerson,
it is.
Hey, the A team is alive, huh? Is that my AC guy calling
you? I gotta get. I try to turn it off every time, and there it is again.
Don't worry about that. That's an important call. That's from the red phone to Oval Office, right?
No, that's from Mr. Likely.
Mr. Likely. There you go.
Yeah, Mr. Scam Likely.
Yeah. But let's get back to that one story that I love that some of the folks out there in TV land really need to hear, especially some of the new viewers out there. And that is when this young couple bought a hardware store.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, one of the big box stores come in and they're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to let you pick up the story from the beginning because they had invested everything in that business, hadn't they?
They had put in all of their life savings. It was a young couple and had two young kids. And they were both working 60 hours a week, as you can imagine, Jim.
Sure.
And they were in a small town. Now, for those of you who are viewing, who are in a city or a larger town, this may not relate directly to your circumstance. But stay with us, okay?
The principles are the same.
Yeah, because the principles are the same. They were in a very small town, just a few thousand people, and they were if you can picture a triangle of three towns, each one of these three towns had 4,000 or 5,000 people. Not a lot. Each town had two hardware stores. How many, Jim?
Two. Yeah.
And this particular one had been there for over 80 years when this young couple bought it. And they'd owned it for about 5 years. And right in the middle, bam, of these 3 towns, this big box store, and I won't say the name,
Mm-hmm.
built one of their huge hardware stores.
Mm-hmm.
And you can guess what happened. One by one, every single one of those different hardware stores went out of business.
Mm.
We've seen that.
Except
We've
one.
seen it all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the fault of the big box store. They're
Mm-hmm.
doing their business, to do business. I was asked by a friend of mine who is a consultant if I would come in and help this couple. And the first thing that I said to them was, this big box store can't compete against you.
Mm.
Hear that. They began to tell me all of the reasons why they couldn't compete against the big box store. They had bulk buying. They have this. They have national advertising. All the reasons. And I said, listen, they can't compete against you. And if you get that in your head, it's game over. We're not going to put them out of business. We don't need to.
Mm-mm.
And what we did a lot of things, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
I've shared some of them with you. We did a lot of things. We had a chit program. Those of you who've been in the military know what a chit is. A program where we created bonus bucks, and every time somebody bought a certain amount, they got one of these little bucks, and we got 15 or 20 other businesses who were willing to accept the bucks and also issue the bucks, and
Mm-hmm.
and they all started working together. And it was keep the money in the town, in the community, and goodness gracious, we increased the prices. This was a hard one. We increased the prices across the board, a minimum of about 10% in the stores, in their store. And that was a hard one for them to swallow. And we added in free delivery in a certain radius. So we did a lot of little things like that. And we got rid of all the junk out in front of the store. How many of you have ever been to a hardware store that's they've got the grills out front and the planters are out front, and they've got the
lawnmowers.
They got all this stuff out front, and it's, you got to walk through all of that to get into the store. I said, get rid of all of that. I said, put in a couple of picnic tables, put in a coffee machine. Let's make it where it's a place for community to come. They were selling people were bringing in eggs and vegetables, and they were selling them, and they were keeping whatever, 10 or 20% of it. I said, give it to them. Give it to them. Make them sign up where they get to come in on a particular, on particular days or on a particular week. I said, let them keep it. You don't need that money. Because what is Grandma Jones going to do when she's got her tomatoes in the hardware store? She's going to tell the whole family, and what's the whole family going to do? They're all going to come to the hardware store, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just thinking, again, no matter how big the box is, you think in, there's a bigger box. Just think outside of that box. And what we ended up doing was creating a cultural center where people were driving, and still are, from the other 2 towns to this town to shop. And out of the 6 hardware stores, there's only one, and it's this one. Still in business. And that's sad.
Yeah.
That breaks my heart.
I like that. I mean, not about breaking your heart, but I like what you did there, because you think about, in my hometown, I grew up in a small hometown, and you think about the way things were, what a friendly family type atmosphere a lot of businesses were, the community was, and you go like, it's not like that anymore, and it's kind of like they've lost their individual flavor. Can you imagine Baskin Robbins being in business with 31 flavors if they lost their flavor? I mean, think about it. That's a horrible analogy, but my point being is that when you talked about the picnic tables there, people could sit down and have coffee.
Oh yeah.
And Girl Scouts could come up there and sell cookies. And oh man, you go to one of these big box stores where the manager's just a manager. They don't have any say so. In other words, they can't write a check to pay the power bill or anything like that. Right. They're just there to get fired if things don't run smooth. And I'm not trying to be negative towards managers.
No. And there's a place for the big box stores.
Yeah.
But even like the marquee sign out front, I said, stop putting your sales out there.
Yeah.
When Grandma Jones turns 101, put her up there.
Yeah, she's news.
Yeah, that's important locally.
Yeah,
Everybody can get your circular, and everybody can come in. But there was another thing that we did, Jim. This is you'll love this. So they had people there. Some of them had been there for 20 and 30 years. I mean, way before this young couple had bought it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And they were really, if I'm lying, I'm dying. They were at the point where they would choke up because they were going to have to start letting go people who had spent 20 or 30 years working there before they ever bought it. And I said, look, Joe and Plumbing isn't going to sit there and try to pitch people on buying another, PVC elbow or glue or whatever. Mm-hmm. I said, let's make this easy. And so, folks, sometimes it's old school. It doesn't all have to be, tech and internet and
AI and all that.
Mm-hmm. Right? I said, let's make some 3x5 cards. And on one side, let's list 20 or 30 things that people often need to buy in that department. Mm-hmm. So what do you need? You need to have elbows, and you need to have glue. And you need to have the primer, and you need to have a cutter, and whatever it is. I said, on the other side, we're just going to say, don't want you to have to come to make 3 trips for the same job.
Yeah.
Maybe this will help.
Yeah.
I said, that's all they have to remember. Mm-hmm. And so we got Joe in Plumbing to be able to pull out the card out of his pocket and say, hey, man, hey, Jim, how you doing, man? Hey, I remember when your granddaddy used to shop here. Holy Toledo, how's your family doing? And then blah, 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 all that. Mm-hmm. And then he could say, well, look, Jim, I don't want you to have to make 3 trips for the same job. Here's a checklist. Mm-hmm. Make sure that you don't forget to get anything that you need.
There you go. That was it.
No big sale. We increased sales across the board for that store by about 20%.
Wow.
Just with that. Mm. And Joe and Plumbing didn't have to be pitching and trying to get people to buy stuff they didn't want or need. Mm-hmm. And we were able to raise prices. And we kept that one store. I wish I could have done it for all of them, Jim.
Yeah.
But we kept that one store they're still in business today. Mm-hmm. And it's been 5-6 years.
Yeah.
So
that's wonderful.
The little things that you do. It's like, we've talked about Clement Stone's book, where he said, little hinges swing big doors.
Yes. Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude by W. Clement Stone and Napoleon Hill. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Little hinges swing big doors.
That's right. I mean, he's so correct on that. And, Emerson, I see people now that they want to collaborate, people who are online marketers. They want to collaborate and build a network of others. But really, a lot of times, they really don't know how to do it. And so many times what I've seen, because people have approached me, what I've seen, they come to me and they're kind of like looking at me like, what can you do for me? How can your TV show bless me? And you've heard me say this, and this is my analogy when it comes to business. I look at business associations like that and networking. It's like a potluck dinner. Everybody's going to focus on their special dish. And everybody knows what everybody, make a list and everybody knows what they're bringing.
Right.
And you know what everybody else is bringing. But when you get together and you come together to share your special dish, everyone's well fed and there's plenty left over.
Yeah.
That is what marketing relationships is all about.
Yeah.
It's got to be a win-win-win all the way around. Even for people that want to do business with you, there's got to be something in it that makes them feel good. Give them a reason to feel good. And Emerson, we've got a TV show we're going to be working on for the city of Brenham, here in Brenham, Texas. We got a series coming up. But our cause is to help raise money for the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the VFW Foundation. Right. And see, that automatically gives people a reason to want, because all of the stores that's working with us, all of the stores are going to be getting the credit for the raising money for the VFW. And we're going to have a special link for that. And that gives people a reason to say, hey, I want to buy from this store, or I want to order online from this store because I'm able to support our veterans. Because a lot of people in America have often said or thought, why doesn't the government do more for the veterans? Well, I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm a lifetime member of the VFW, and I know why. There are different tiers of importance in the federal government. You hear a lot about the House Ways and Means Committee. That's a tier 1. That's why you hear a lot about it. The veterans not even tier 2. We're tier 3. So by the time they get down to us, they're either out of time or out of money. But see, the average person doesn't know that.
What a lot of viewers don't know, and folks, I'm going to stick this out there, okay? If you have a business or know somebody who has a business, this program, Jim has spent, what, 3 years, Jim?
Yeah.
Just about 3 years.
Started in 2020.
Has about 1.5 million viewers a month. 1.5 million views a month. Downloads, streams a month of people watching it. And the thing is, the programs that he's trying to put in place, which he and I have talked through and worked on and everything else, but the programs he's trying to put into place are programs that will allow not just your business to be able to get that kind of exposure month after month, but will also fund programs that have value.
Yes.
Programs that, in some cases, like the one you were just describing, that sometimes kind of get forgotten about. You know, it's easy to get all patriotic and up in the air when there's a challenge,
4th of July or
4th of July or whatever. But when we're talking about the day to day for veterans coming back, that's something that's got value.
Yes.
And when you can, whether you advertise on this program or not, is, you know, if you can support a veterans organization, VFW, the American Legion, Disabled American Veterans, do it. But if you can also be promoting your business, and that's also happening as a result of you promoting your business, that's a win-win.
Yeah.
I mean, how long do you have to think about that one?
Yeah, exactly. And let's take it to I want to open this door here too.
I'm going to get off my soapbox there. Jim didn't ask me to promote like that. He didn't ask me to promote.
Yeah, and I didn't promise him $20. Say that either. So we're
good.
We're good. Was it? But your cause that you pick has got to fit your personality. It's got to fit you.
Yes.
Let's say, for example, you may say, well, gee, Jim, I didn't spend 31 years in the Army. I didn't go to Vietnam. I'm not this. I'm not that. I never even put a combat boot on. So what? What about the St. Jude's Hospital, for example? And I get nothing for mentioning their name, or Feed the Children worldwide. Because I've used this many times.
Or Make-A-Wish.
Yeah.
Or Habitat for Humanity.
Yes, exactly. Whatever that you've got skin in the game. Maybe it's the American Heart Association or cancer. Maybe it's breast cancer for women. See, it's got to fit your persona. That's what I'm saying. And to drive this point home, I'm a firm believer in this, that if I'm going to buy from a company, a particular product model, and I know what I want to pay, and the first company I'll call company A has got it. And I'm looking around and I'm just, I see company B, they got it too. But company B also lets me know that a portion of their sales is donated to the St. Jude's Hospital or the Ronald McDonald House, another great charity you don't hear much about. I mean, sitting back, if I'm going to get the same product for the same price, and company A is just going to, process my card and that's it. But company B, they'll process my card, but they're going to give me something of value because I know when I do business with them, a portion of that is going to go to benefit their particular charity, especially if I can connect with and relate to the St. Jude's Hospital or Feeding Children Worldwide or whatever that charity might be. They give me a reason to do business with them, to want to do business with them. Yeah. Now, if you had that same choice, let me ask you a question. Would you yourself prefer to do business? Would you pick company A that just sells you the product and says, thank you very much? Or company B that tells you that a portion of their sales goes to benefit the charity? Which one would you want to check?
Further, Jim.
Okay.
I'll take it a step further.
All right.
An awful lot of people would even be willing to pay a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying, if it's 5% or 10% more, but you know that's what's going on, that there's a bigger cause than just how much money they're making. You know what? It starts to make a lot of the needing to be the cheapest. Like I said earlier, you're never going to be the cheapest.
You don't want to be either.
Just give that up. That does nothing for your business, for your bottom line, for your margins that you have to be able to be sustainable. But if you are offering something like Jim just described, and people look at that and go, oh, okay, that's bigger. And the one that I use an awful lot is I think it was Zappos shoes. That that every time you bought a pair got donated.
Ooh.
Well, people were willing to pay a little bit more in that kind of an environment because they knew that was going to happen. And here's the magic in that. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Amen.
And when they know how much you care, that influences their decision. That doesn't mean that that's going to make their decision. That influences their decision. And that affects how they make their decision, or whether they buy from you or from somebody else. Yeah. And if it's just a dollar amount that's different, that may or may not be enough to matter when they know I'm doing this, and this is something that's going to be bigger than just this purchase. Yes. And I'm not talking about just having your annual drive for UNICEF or the American Red Cross or whoever, all of which are great. I'm talking about owning it.
Yes. And
identifying with it. I'm talking about including it in everything that you're doing and making it into part of who your culture and personality is.
Yeah. And I'm going to take it one step further because I really believe this in my heart, ladies and gentlemen. I really believe right now the mental soil, and the mind is prime because the people today, they're looking for something positive. With everything that's negative going on, and they want to be very quietly and silently making a stand for something they believe in. And if you have a good, worthy cause that they can connect to, that gives them a feeling to say, hey, I want to be part of it. You want them to buy into your system. Your system is the best because you give people an opportunity to share in the success of what you're doing, because part of your success is being able to help others. And I think there's people that would just, they're itching to look for good, positive things like that right now. I think it's prime market. I really do. Especially with all the doom and gloom that we hear, and the stuff that we're just sick of.
I'll take it a step further, Jim.
Go ahead, brother.
There are people who don't care.
Yeah.
There are people who don't care.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Just show me the bottom line. That's all I need. Just, hey. And you know what?
They're not your customers.
This is where the real magic happens. When you have people who are aligned with you,
mm-hmm.
and who want to have a higher purpose, you have a whole different level of conversation.
Yeah.
When the people say, I don't care about that, just what's the bottom line, just blah, 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 blah. You know what? Have a good life.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing, Jim. That's a hard thing for small businesses to really get
mm-hmm.
that saying no.
Yeah.
Or saying this is part of who we are, and we want that to be part of the people that we are doing business with.
Mm-hmm.
When you're willing to step out in faith and do that,
mm-hmm.
what you end up with are people who love you, who listen to you, who forgive you when you screw up, and we all screw up again,
mm-hmm.
Who refer people to you, who talk about you,
mm-hmm.
who are believers in
mm-hmm.
what you're doing.
Yeah. And see, you can also find other people that want to work with you mm-hmm. in a networking type of thing, but you must be on the same sheet of music there. And let's say, can you imagine how powerful that would be? That falls right back into those bucks that Emerson was talking about earlier, how the different businesses, accepted and gave up, passed out the bucks. Because if you have 5 businesses, associates, and they're all for the same charity, you become stronger. Your voice becomes stronger because you're multiplying the positive things that attracts, the light that you need at the end of your tunnel. But if you're out there just trying, to generate sales and trying to figure out how you're going to stay in business, you're already pretty much out of business because you're defeated mentally. Yeah,
and you're just like, why are you any different than anyone else?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And folks, listen, we did a show on this last week, I think, or the week before. Mm-hmm. There are now 8 billion. Billion people in the world.
That was 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
8 billion people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's enough hundreds or thousands of those billions of people mm-hmm. who might gravitate towards you and a message? Yeah. It's a bigger message than just closing a sale and getting a credit card.
Oh yeah.
Who might identify with a cause mm-hmm. and be willing to make their decisions based on the fact that mm-hmm. cause matters to them too.
And that also gives people a reason to refer you to others, because
absolutely
it enables them to feel good about telling their brother-in-law or their friend or sister-in-law, whoever it might be, hey, I've shopped at this business here because a portion of their funds goes to this charity. Oh, really?
Every single day. Yeah.
I mean, and word of mouth, free advertising. Oh, that never goes out of style. Still the best form of advertising because it's a principle. Principles never change. Methods and techniques will change, but not the principles. Ladies and gentlemen, our time is gone. And I'm 1 hour closer to the AC guy coming to fix my AC. In which I'm going to say Salahila Holapala, and I'm thankful for that. Emerson knows a story about that Salahila Holapala. It was just a word that I said to my dog one day. It popped in my mind because I kept calling him. He looked at me, and I just looked at him. I says, Salahila Holapala. I made it up. It doesn't mean anything. but it sure communicated something in his little brain, because that little blue healer, he laid his ears back, got a happy look on his face, and made a beeline for me. And I told my wife, and she said, "You're crazy." I said, "No, I'm not." And one day I had to laugh. She was calling him. He wouldn't come. She looked at him and says, "Salahila holapala." And he come running like he was shot out of a cannon. And I just cracked up. I said, "That's a pretty good phrase. You ever figure out what it meant?" Ladies and gentlemen, our time is gone. We sincerely hope and pray that we've been able to bless you, give you some encouragement anyway, because we all need to be uplifted. And when we uplift you, we get uplifted ourselves. So when you look for ways to bless others, you have blessed yourself. And we want to say hello to our good friend, Mr. Bill Heinrich. We hope Bill is feeling better. And he's the author of The 7 Levels of Truth. And don't forget, please, in our closing moments here, to be sure to go to Ideas Worth Knowing, get your library card, complimentary 10 books. You can pick 10 then, or 1 here and 2 there, or whatever. But most importantly, take advantage of these wonderful opportunities. And The 7 Levels of Truth, Mr. Bill says it the best on his back. And I want to close with this because we're out of time. And it says, this book is for anyone seeking answers, solutions, and success in life. Your birthright is to enjoy abundance, love, peace, and joy. And The 7 Levels of Truth will allow you to achieve all these results in your life because you are worthy. Yes. And you have the right to live the best life that you possibly can. And no one can say no except you when you close this. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day. Take care. Appreciate you tuning in.